Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on this webinar with Fugro. My name is Nahal and I'm part of the events team at Target Jobs. I'm really excited to be joined by the team at Fugro, who will be sharing more about who they are, their company, and their application process. Just a couple of housekeeping rules for you before we all begin. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please pop them into the Q&A tab, and one of the Fugro team will go through them and answer your questions. And make sure to show your appreciation throughout the webinar in the chat tab at the bottom. For now, I'm going to hand over to Corey to kick things off.
Thanks, Nahal. Great to meet you, everyone. My name's Corey Cameron. I'm a early careers talent acquisition specialist here at Fugro. It's really just a fancy way of saying one of the early careers recruiters. So essentially what my role entails is supporting you through the application process from the minute you come across us at university through some of our partnerships that we have, when you see our jobs and adverts, etc., on websites and various other platforms such as GTI, and then I'll host some webinars and employability events to put you in the best situation when it comes to you applying for your first role, internship, or summer placement. So, Fugro overall, you might have not heard of us, but the truth is we're actually everywhere, really. We are a massive Geo Data company. We operate all around the world, so we'll go into briefly who we are over the next couple of slides, and then I've got a great team here from our core login team at geotechnical and geology departments that will give you a bit of an insight into what it's like to actually work for us and the type of work that we do. You'll see there's a lot of slides. The bulk of them are actually pictures because what we do is really niche and it's quite hard to explain. Really, the best way to give you a good insight is to show you actually what we do and what it's like to work here and the environments that you could expect to work in should you choose to join us. So a little bit about us. We're a global player. We pride ourselves on being the biggest Geo Data company in the world. We have around about 10,000 employees. That grows literally every single day in over 50 countries with over 100 nationalities. So we look like an offshore company. We're absolutely not. That is a massive part of our business, but we work across energy, water and infrastructure mainly. So essentially anything that you can touch, any asset that plays a part in things like railway lines, the energy that goes to your home, buildings, tunnels, all that sort of stuff. The chances are that Fugro's touched one of those assets for our clients. So in the UK, we've got offices dotted around the country. I'm based here in Aberdeen. We've got our, I say, sort of HQ down in Wallingford, just outside Oxford. We've got one in Plymouth, one out just outside Newcastle. There's Falmouth, which is closer to the west of France than it is me as well, just outside Cornwall. So we're all around the country, but most of our employees are based on site because we're a client-based company. We're essentially a consultancy, so we help our clients all around the country and then in the seas around the world as well. So these are our values. We pitch these to our clients and our people. So our people are our main asset, really. We do buy and sell some bits and pieces, such as piece of kit that we use to carry out our work for our clients, but our people are really our main asset because we consult our clients on how they could best build, maintain and ensure the infrastructure of their assets are as safe as possible. So what do these mean, really? In a nutshell, we're determined to deliver. We want to do the best for our clients, but also our people. So that stems through from the projects that we participate in, but also when an employee joins the company, we want to deliver the best service for you, really, because you're one of our main assets and we want to help you grow. We build trust, so we trust all of our employees. We're a massive company with lots of different expertise. We can't, what way could I put it? We can't be on top of absolutely everything all at the same time. So we embed trust in all of our staff that come in to support our clients, and that's something that we really embed when we are working on projects for some of our clients as well. we've got teams of experts that will support them when they are delivering the projects for them. We do what's right is absolutely massive because we work in various different hazardous conditions. We've got to make sure that what we do is completely safe, whether it be onshore or offshore. And then also we do a lot for the earth. We map the sea. We put in wind turbines into the sea. We try to lower emissions. And what we want to really do is protect the planet that we live in by consulting our clients when they are putting assets into the ground or building something, whether it be subsea and marine or on the land that we walk on as well. And again, preparing for tomorrow, probably one of our most important values that we have. The world's changing at a rapid rate. There's a huge initiative to try to go to net zero. We play a huge part in the energy transition, and ourselves as a business, but also our people are preparing every day for what comes, not just tomorrow, but for the next 50 years as we move into a different part of society and time. So, in a nutshell, what we do is geotechnical work, surveying, so surveying the land and the seabed, and a geoscience organisation as well. And you might need to zoom in a little bit here, but this is available on our website. This is our ambition towards 2030 and what we want to achieve as an organisation. It touches every single part of the earth. So all the way from the environmental impact that we have and our clients have and how we can support them to make sure that that's as sustainable as possible. How we map the seabeds and support them with the energy transition. And then also on land, how can we make sure that the infrastructure that we live on is sustainable as possible for everybody, everybody who really walks the earth. A huge part of that, which maybe get touched on later, is our remote operation centres. So you'll see a lot of this on our website and also on our social media channels. These are for our subsea projects. What this basically helps us do is maintain as close to a carbon neutral approach when we're participating in projects by using remote vessels and what are called uncrewed surface vessels. They're controlled all around the world, but we've got a hub here in Aberdeen. And what it allows us to do is have absolutely nobody on board the vessel that's going to complete work, say geophysical work in the North Sea, or even if we were to do what's called ROV work, so remotely operated vehicles. What those look like is this. So this down in the bottom right hand corner is one of our uncrewed surface vessels that's controlled by people within the remote operation centres. So the ones that we have, we've got one in Aberdeen, we've got one in Houston, Texas, one in Perth, I believe, and then one in the Middle East as well. And basically what they allow us to do is a few things. You'll hear us go on a lot about sustainability, but also it opens up our talent pool. So there's a massive skills shortage within the offshore industry, and the remote operations centre allows people who wouldn't usually want to work in those environments or can't work in those environments. It allows them to do so. So if you don't want to go offshore, that's absolutely fine. You can still be a surveyor, a geophysicist, an ROV pilot, so on and so forth. So it's something that I've never considered as going offshore, but when I found out about all this and it could be done from land, my biggest fear is deep water. You'll never see me on a boat and I get seasick looking at glass. So if I ever wanted to in the future, it means that I could go and work on one of these projects, but do it from the comfort of an office remotely rather than in the sea on one of the more traditional vessels. So that's enough from me. what I'll do is I'll hand over to Anthony, that's going to give you a really well-rounded approach on the work that we do and what that looks like for not only our clients but our employees when they join as well, and how it all comes together, because we've got lots of different teams and departments. So he's going to bring that all together for you and show you how a project works here at Fugro. Over to you, Anthony.
Thank you for the introduction, Corey, and thank you for everyone joining the webinar this afternoon. My name's Anthony Collins, and I'm a project engineering geologist at Fugro. And as Corey mentioned, I'll be giving a sort of summarization of what we do here at Fugro and how we best serve our clients, but also what I specifically do in my role and what that entails. So, a bit more background about me. I work as a geologist in our engineering geology and geohazards team. That comes under our marine geoconsultancy group, and I've been working at Fugro for just under 2 years, since April 2023. And like Jemima, who will be talking later about the core logging and lab facilities here, I'm based at the Wallingford office, just south of Oxfordshire. And I have a sort of secondary role as an offshore geotechnical lab engineer. So a couple of times a year, I might go offshore on one of our geotechnical vessels and complete some of the data acquisition and processing that happens offshore, which is a great opportunity for me to develop my skills, but also essentially provide a fundamental understanding of the work we do offshore, which helps in my consultancy role back here in the office. So been incredibly beneficial on that front for me. Prior to working at Fugro, I graduated from the University of Southampton in 2019 with a MSci in geology. And in that time at university, I did some part-time work in hospitality, for example, Southampton Football Club, so if you're a Saints fan. And since university, I worked for a waste management broker in their accounts and finance department, then moving to a environmental consultancy on the greenhouse gas emission side of things, so helping clients to understand their emissions and set targets for net zero. But really that provided me with a sort of foundation in consultancy, which helped me transition into my role at Fugro. So who do we work for? Well, essentially, as Corey said, we are a Geo Data expertise or experts company. And one of the things we majorly provide is earth science data. And as Corey mentioned, that can come in a whole suite of data sets or forms, everything from geological, geotechnical, geophysical through to meteorological data. But who wants to buy that data from us? Well, they're typically large infrastructure developers and operators, people who actually own those infrastructure assets. They could be BP or Shell, or more specifically on the renewable energy side of things, such as Ørsted. And between oil and gas and renewables in 2023, we roughly had an equal split, with 23% in infrastructure, which was probably mostly associated with land-based projects. So we're serving a huge range of sectors and a huge range of entities, and you can see probably more familiar organisations and entities on the slide. But we also serve government entities. So, for example, in the UK, the Crown Estate, where they want to essentially lease a section of, let's say, seabed to a potential offshore wind farm developer. So they might want to understand what's going on at that site. But why do our clients need to understand what's going on at their site? Well, they need to understand how strong the sea or subsurface is for their chosen development. And this can have huge implications for the cost, planning, logistics, and even regulatory compliance phases of projects. And all of those aspects can add risk. And what we want to do is increase the site value by reducing risk and increasing confidence in the planning and project process. So what projects do Fugro work on? Well, as I've already mentioned, we're heavily involved in the energy offshore wind farm development sector, but also oil and gas. And we're seeing more activity in the carbon capture storage space, which is great to see, and hopefully we'll see more of that coming in the future. And we support both of those, or all of those aspects, with seafloor cables and pipeline surveys and data acquisition. But we are also involved in more ecological projects as well as coastal resilience. And we have a marine grass preservation project or mapping project in the coast of Italy, which is another area the business is expanding into. But in the terrestrial space, we have a huge array of projects. I'm sure Octavian will tell you more about those later, from the sort of road, bridges, railways, tunnels side of things. So huge suite of projects going on there. And on the screen, you'll see some of those assets that Corey mentioned earlier, those ROVs, which we might use to survey or monitor foundation integrity or cables and pipelines, or our major geotechnical vessels, such as the Fugro Synergy in the middle of the screen, or the Fugro Excalibur, one of our jacket rigs. So we have a huge amount of assets and arsenal of tools to essentially acquire high quality geodata for our clients. But one of our main objectives, as I said, is to reduce risk for the clients. And how do we do that? Well, Fugro, being a huge company with many different, as I said, aspects to it, can be involved at every stage of the project life cycle, right the way through from conception in the early phase all the way through to decommissioning at the end. And from my experience in consultancy, we can be involved at the very early onset, and we can advise clients with a geological destiny that conceptualizes the site's history, but also gives context to potential foundation concepts that might come later in the assessment, and also assess the geohazard risks for that specific site, for that specific structure. Later on in the detailed site characterization phase is where we see more of those Fugro heavy assets, such as the geotechnical vessels or CPT trucks on land that go out and acquire that primary data on site. And then around our various facilities, either in the UK or internationally, as we send data between them, we'll process that data, and we also have lab testing facilities, and we'll deliver that to our clients. Following that, consultancy or other teams could then get involved again to provide more analytical design advice on how best to design foundations or structures off the back of that primary data. So at that stage, we're really starting to reduce risk because we're giving them a clear picture of what they should do to optimize their essentially investment for the structure they're looking to build. In the construction phase, this is an area where we have less assets, as we don't necessarily own the installation vessels that install those wind farms or wind turbines and jacket rigs, but we could be involved in, let's say, the ground investigations for those pieces of installation, because those jacket rigs, the massive barges that install those wind farms, they still need to understand how strong the seabed is for that specific work. And then as in operations, as mentioned, we've got those ROVs that can inspect those in structures and essentially monitor the project throughout its life cycle. So we're getting involved at all stages and helping to increase understanding and reduce risk. But what do I specifically do at Fugro? Well, in the engineering geology team, we utilise a combination of geology, geotechnics and geophysics. So we're very multifaceted in the team, which provides a very diverse and sort of interesting working environment. But we're also part of the Marine Geoconsultancy Group. So we have a specific team for geophysics, geotechnical engineering, engineering geology, which I'm part of, GIS and ecology. And we all work together to advise our clients on, let's say, the best course of action or best design methods for their given chosen development. But in my day-to-day, I spend a lot of time analysing and interpreting different data sets. One of those data sets you can see on the screen here, and this is a bathymetry map for the Princess Elizabeth offshore wind farm zone, which is just off the coast of Belgium. And the water depth here is around 5 to 45 metres depth here. And you can see the different geotechnical location plans, which have been essentially drilled or tested by some of those vessels you saw earlier. And one of the aspects of my role is to integrate all of that information together. And I have an example for you here. And the purpose is to essentially derive a ground model for the site and pile that information together in a neat package with a framework for the clients to understand the layers that they have at their site and what the different geotechnical properties might be. So we have a seismic section on the bottom of the screen with those different layers, which have been interpreted by the geophysics team here in Wallingford. And then we have our borehole CPT data, which essentially correlates or provides the CPT information or geotechnical information for those geophysics units. So we're bringing those two different data sets together. And on the top right of the slide, we've essentially created a conceptual cross-section, which summarises the history of the site and also the stratigraphy and the different layers that we might see there. And for the keen eye emoji, you'll be able to see that the seismic section on the bottom of the screen is actually presented in the top right of the conceptual cross-section there. So that's just a little example of how we bring all of that data together for our clients in a ground model. But I believe now I'll be handing over to Jemima.
Hi, I am Jemima. I'm a supervising field and core logging engineer, and I work in the core logging team over in the labs at our Wallingford site. So on Wallingford, we have two main buildings, one which is more office-based, which is where Anthony is based, and one towards the back where we do a lot of our testing and logging. Bit of a background about me. I actually graduated in 2014, so quite a long time ago now. And I really wanted a hands-on geology job when I finished. So I ended up moving to Australia for 2 years and working in mining geology to get a little bit more experience in the hard rock side of life. I came back to the UK in 2020, which was perfectly in time for a worldwide pandemic, which meant getting a job was a little bit difficult. So I ended up going back to my university and doing a master's to try and upskill the knowledge that I'd gained while I was in Australia. And halfway through that master's degree, I found Fugro and got in conversation with them and found out about all the amazing hands-on geology work that they do. I've been here now for about 3.5 years, progressing through the core logging department as well as offshore. So a little bit about where I sit within the company. So as I said, one of our second building at Wallingford is our labs and core logging area. So within that, I work in the core logging department. We work very closely with the standard lab and advanced lab. Standard lab and advanced lab conduct all of the testing on the samples that we gather from offshore. So where I may log it, they do all the lab-based testing work. And the people who work there are not all geologists, they're biologists, ecologists, psychologists. Anyone who's got a sort of analytical and problem-solving background has found a really good home in our labs department. And because of the diverse backgrounds of everyone, it's a really fun place to work because the conversations are all over the place and really interesting. I work in the core logging department, who kind of sit next door to them. And we're sort of the connect between the labs and what happens offshore. Everything that doesn't get processed offshore comes to us, and then we log it, process it, and send it on to the lab. So we're really the connecting point between the physical offshore work and the lab work, which the results then feed back into Anthony's side of life. Most of my slides are going to be fairly picture heavy because, as I said, we're a very hands-on department, so we don't have particularly large spreadsheets or data analysis side that I can show you lovely graphs from, so please bear with me on that front. This is my day-to-day onshore. So I spend most of my time soil logging. So the samples come back from offshore, we split them open and have a look what's there. Real fundamental nuts and bolts of geology. And I've really enjoyed that side of it. I was not the sort of person that wanted a 9-to-5 desk job regularly. I do have some desk time, but that's my main job, is hands-on with the geology, logging it, testing it. We do index testing in soil logging to give general idea to the soil's properties so that the labs can refine their testing regimes and their test conditions. We also do QA/QC of our data that we do test. So in our index testing and our thermal conductivity and electrical resistivity testing that we do in core logging, we do the QA/QC and data analysis of that across some pretty large projects. So although I said I don't particularly like a desk job, I do spend probably about a day and a half, 2 days a week at my desk doing that sort of stuff now that I've progressed up into a more supervising role. So it's quite a nice balance between hands-on, getting dirty, covered in clay and sand every day, and also trolling through data in Excel. When I am offshore, it looks pretty similar to the hands-on side of my onshore life. We do soil logging, we do rock logging, we do cone penetration testing, and we produce and QA/QC the field reports before they come back to the office, where our colleagues here give them a final check and then issue them out to our clients. So again, it is a nice balance between being really hands-on and doing a little bit of report writing, data control. When you're offshore, we tend to go for about 4 weeks at a time, and we work 12-hour shifts. So it is pretty, it's pretty intense. There's not a lot of breaks, but it's really rewarding work. Everyone gets a really nice sort of team sense because we're all there together, we're all there to do the same sort of thing. And when we are there, we do see some pretty beautiful things. So not to be too much of a travel advert, but the last couple of years at Fugro, I've been to the Baltic, Bay of Biscay, North Sea, Irish Sea, St George's Channel, pretty much everywhere all over Europe that you can think of. I've been on a vessel and working there. I've seen some pretty cool stuff. I've been around Christmas snowing in the Baltic. I've been sunbathing in my time off in the Bay of Biscay. So it was a completely varied environment, and as much as I don't want to sound like a travel agent, I've really enjoyed moving around and seeing different countries that I hadn't experienced before I joined this job, and working with teams from across Europe as well. All of our offshore teams are really multinational, and it's really fun to meet people from all over the place and find out a bit more about them. I'm very much marine based, so I can't comment on what Octavian's going to come up with next, but this is my side of life, and I really, really love every aspect of the travel, the hands-on and the data analysis. I found a really good environment to pursue all my different interests in one place. And yeah, here's Octavian.
Hi everyone. I agree so much, and you must excuse me, but I've copied some of your sunset photos into my slides as well.
Very cheeky.
No, it's definitely a part of it. The landscapes that we are fortunate enough to see is something really special. And earlier today, I was on part of this site that I'm on. I'm currently on HS2, and I got to revisit a part of the site that I hadn't seen for 2 years. And 2 years ago, I was doing the core logging for what is now, so I did a location at every part of the viaduct that is connected to the ground. And so I had to double check that it's nicely aligned and straight and hasn't cracked at any corner. And I'm happy to say it's a phenomenal piece of engineering, but it's great to know that I've been a part of that process. And so it's something massively rewarding. And now I'll go through some of the slides. So this, the department that I work in is part of the nearshore department. We do both working at sea, and then in situations like this, we work on land as well. But I'll give a quick introduction to myself first. So I graduated from the University of Portsmouth in 2022. After graduation, I had 3 job offers, and I decided to go for Fugro, really without hesitating one part. And hopefully by the end of the presentation, you will understand why I've done it in that way. So I always wanted to travel, and I also always wanted to have the name of engineer in the title, because I thought it's like the coolest thing ever. And then I thought, okay, well then geology is the way, right? And so becoming a geotechnical engineer at Fugro kind of sums up all of these parts together. And basically, I have stayed in so many hotels that this weird thing happens where I wake up in the hotel. It happened last night, the hotel I stayed at. I woke up and I didn't quite know where I was. But every day is seeing something new, and we get to meet so many people as part of this process. It's wonderful. And when you hear other people say about, oh, I've had a really good day at work. I know, but was it a really good day at work like what my really good day at work is? Or is it kind of like it's a different thing? So it's one of the points here is doing a diverse job, and it really is diverse. It's difficult, but it's very rewarding. And the ratio between difficulty and reward is very much worth it. Like the hardest weeks are often the best weeks. And when I kind of finish on a Friday or at the end of each shift, it's like, okay, yeah, we've done great here. This is really good. Oh, okay. So some of the projects that I have been involved. This was a photo of me 2 years ago. Although the coveralls look the same, I promise I've changed them since then. Got to see a lot of really heavy plant, lots of really big infrastructure parts. It's absolutely crazy what we are capable of doing with engineering. And it's really awesome to be able to see it, but not necessarily have to be on this site the whole time like these people have been. So we kind of dip in and out, have a check-in, and then keep it moving. I'll spend a little bit of time talking about this project specifically. This is Hammersmith Bridge in London. And what we did is we worked on this jack-up platform for almost a month. And to be in such a central part of London, doing a job that is so different from everyone else that was traveling to work as we were starting work in this, it was a really big sense of achievement. So this was a beautiful project to be associated with. And again, one where we were able to provide data which was really valuable to the client. So a couple more photos from that. You can tell I liked this project. There's a lot of photos. Most of my slides are from the project. So after that project, going from a very small jack-up platform to the biggest one I've been on, with this one I was involved over a period of 4 months. So as we get involved with quite large infrastructure projects, we're fortunate enough that we can have multiple rotations as part of the campaign. And it's really bizarre. Every time I look at the photos of this jack-up or the other one that's coming up in the slide, it almost feels like home. And I think it's home in the good sense, because it's linked to so many wonderful memories and experiences that I wish I could be on there now. But I'm in a very warm 4x4 in a car park. It's the ups and downs, eh? And of course, you must excuse the sunset photos, but it is something truly beautiful. This was one where we got to go to Denmark. I'd never gone to Denmark before. It was never part of the travel plans. But I'm really grateful for checking out a place that I wouldn't have otherwise gone on holiday. And this was last summer, where I got to spend in the north of France, and we had a beautiful, beautiful time. We even saw the Northern Lights, and the whole project from start to finish was an absolute joy. And this is a photo of me standing, sitting in the crane. And it just goes to show how beautifully open every department is, that they would welcome you in and say, hey, look, we're not doing anything. Do you want to sit in the seat? Absolutely, I want to try something new. So I have this thing that I say that when I start working with a colleague, we are colleagues, but it doesn't take long before we become friends. And as the whole industry, and I think Fugro especially, the relationship that you can develop with the people is something really meaningful. And I love this, because if it wouldn't be for the personal relationship level, the work would be significantly less enjoyable. And there might be moments where it's like, okay, it's Friday, I want to go home, I want to be home already. Or you wake up really early on a Monday to travel out somewhere, but you see your friend is doing the same thing, and it makes the whole thing a whole lot better. That's what I enjoy about it. I think that's my last slide. I'll hand the microphone back over.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for that. That's why I really enjoy these sessions, because it's one of these things that I don't get to see very often, and the work that we hire actually do. It's really interesting. So to give you all a bit of an idea of that's just some of the work that we do, and just some of the roles that we recruit for across all levels. So I guess the next question is, well, what type of disciplines do we actually look for, and we're hiring for at the moment? It really varies. To name a few, we are hiring graduate surveyors across 3 different service lines. So one is marine geophysical, which is seabed survey essentially. They look out for things like, I'll give you the more interesting things that they look for: unexploded bombs, sunken pirate ships, anything that if you put a wind turbine on top of it, it'll blow up. They look for that sort of stuff to make sure that it's safe for the assets and stuff to go into. We're hiring surveyors for our positioning and construction support team. So they do things like rig moves, for example. And then our inspection, repair and maintenance team, which they do basically what it says on the tin, a lot of ROV work, and they inspect and maintain things like subsea pipelines and those sorts of things as well. This afternoon, we will be recruiting for our graduate geotechnical engineering programme and our graduate geophysicist programme as well. Both of them have rotations across different service lines, so you'll basically get to have a really good, well-rounded experience and see what it's like to work in different departments, really. We've also got a number of roles coming up within our labs as well. We are hiring for engineers also, so geophysical engineers who maintain and deploy the equipment. So to give you a bit of an idea of what some of the kit that we use, Anthony, you might be in a better place to help me out with this one. But one that always stands out to me is when I went to a vessel visit and the geophysical survey engineers showed me this thing that basically looked to me like a massive torpedo like a warhead. And I was thinking, wow, what's that got to do with Geo Data? That just looks like a missile to me. It was what we call EUV. So it's an autonomous vehicle that gets launched off the back of the vessel, or in politer words, deployed. That goes away and does its own thing. It's controlled by the survey engineers, collects all the data that's needed, and then gets harpooned back in. So they're really cool pieces of kit. So yeah, we're looking for survey engineers. We've also got workshops all around the country who look for mechanical engineers, design engineers, workshop technicians, ROV pilots as well. Our USV team, so the uncrewed surface vessel team, they're looking for 8 ROV pilots who would sit in the remote operations centre and fly the pilots from the office, but they'd be offshore, being towed along from the USV, doing all the sort of work that I just mentioned there, such as pipeline inspections and that sort of stuff as well. So a really vast amount of roles that we're hiring for. We recruit somewhere between 130 and 150 graduates per year across all the different disciplines, but they're all now going to be going into a graduate programme which provides them with rotations and that sort of stuff as well. We recruit all year round, so a little bit different from most other employers who tend to advertise in sort of September, October, and then give offers around about February, March time. We hire all year round because we're project based, so our demand for grads come in as and when projects come up, really. So there's no tight deadlines and stuff like that as well. In regards to our recruitment process for graduates, really there's nothing that we catch out at all, nothing out of the ordinary either. It is a case of applying through the website using your CV. To give you some tips, I've screened probably upwards of 50,000 CVs in my time in early careers. I've seen the very best, and I'd say that the ones that need the most development, really. What I tend to look for is the degree that you've done, to make sure that you're a graduate. That should always be somewhere near the top. Let us know what discipline it's in as well. If you're part of any societies, so there's societies at all universities, isn't there? Let us know if you're part of them. Any projects that you've participated in. Talk about your dissertation. They're all things that are really interesting to us and gives us a bit of an idea of what you want to do in terms of your career and where you'd best be fitted within the Fugro team. After that, you'd have a quick conversation with me just to make sure that the role at the centre is right for you. Nothing too difficult at all whatsoever. And then you'd be invited to an assessment centre. They take place around the country, usually in between Wallingford if you're going for a geotechnical based role, or if it's surveying, usually up in Aberdeen. But we would cover your travel expenses and all that sort of stuff as well, and work around you. At the assessment day, it lasts about half a day. You would take part in an interview with some of our experienced staff, And then there's also a group exercise where we measure things like your team working skills, the ability to think on the spot, those sorts of things as well. And it's all based around Fugro's values and Geo Data. So they're completely designed so that anybody from any discipline can participate in them and perform really well in them. And there's nothing in there that's overly technical, to be completely honest with you, because we're looking for the right types of people, not experience straight away. We're totally aware that we're hiring graduates that have perhaps had a year in industry or a summer placement. That's absolutely fine. We're looking for more your drive and motivation for the industry that you're going into and the team that you're going into more than anything as well, coupled with the theory-based learning that you've had while you were doing your studies at university. So nothing petrifying at all whatsoever. Always get asked about assessment centres. I think a lot of people worry as soon as you say that there's going to be a group of 8 to 10 people and you're going to be assessed in a group environment. It can sound quite daunting. There's really nothing to worry about at all whatsoever, because we are looking more for your qualities and your passion and motivation, really, more than anything. You will see a QR code on the screen. So we have a talent community that we've been building up. There's a few perks to joining that. The first one is that you'll receive information about our roles more than anybody else. So my dream is that by doing things like these webinars and going out to universities and stuff, that I won't actually have to publish positions in the future, because we'll meet so much great talent on campus, etc., that we could let them know when the roles go live and then you apply for them. So that's the main perk of it. You beat the general public really before it goes on any job boards and that sort of stuff as well. Outside of that, you'll get some really great value add content. So things like case studies that we've done, any exciting news at Fugro, some industry news as well. There'll be blogs and vlogs and all that sort of stuff that is outside of your usual recruitment content that you might receive, but more things that you actually might just find interesting that Fugro's participated in or taken part of. So that's the other main perk of joining it. You don't get spammed at all whatsoever, don't worry. It is just stuff that you would be interested in along with roles as well. So if you want to sign up to that, it's really easy. All you do is scan the QR code and then you'll be greeted by a very short form, which basically asks for your name, the university that you went to, what you're interested in, and some contact details and stuff as well. So nothing too taxing at all. It just should take a couple of minutes. That's enough from me. I've seen there maybe some questions and stuff in the chat. So what I'll do, if it's all right, I highly doubt that there's a massive amount of these for me. It'll be for Octavian, Anthony and Jemima, because you have all the interesting bits and pieces there. So what I'll do is I'll read these out and then you can feel free to answer them as fit. So we have one here from Mohammed that says, I've just completed an internship with SLB and have a geophysical engineering degree. Wondering if I can join Fugro. I'm very interested. I love how Octavian is presenting his journey. It's awesome. So that's sort of half for me and half not. So yeah, absolutely. Geophysical engineering is a massive part of our organisation. Yeah, that's the best way I could put it. We're always looking for geophysical engineers. Our next cohort is September, and we'll be doing assessment centres for them probably within the next couple of months. By scanning, I don't want to sound like I'm constantly plugging this QR code, but if you scan that, you will be told when the roles go live before I post them on the likes of LinkedIn and GTI and these sorts of places. So yeah, more than happy to see your application. Guys, in terms of geophysical engineering, do you work with the geophysical engineers? Is there any tips or insights that you could provide?
I work with some offshore because we have such varied projects. They tend to move around between our offshore vessels a little bit more often than our geologists do. So if you're looking for that on the marine side of things, be prepared to travel for sure. Yeah, you'll go all over the place. You'll be highly in demand. So go for it.
Definitely. Some of the kit is so cool as well. One of them that I've seen was these massive air guns, mechanical ones. And it's just mad that you could use this piece of kit that could tell you what the bottom of the sea looks like and under hundreds of metres worth of water. It's well cool. got one here specifically for Jemima. So it says, question for Jemima. You said about supervised field and core engineering in that soil logging, rock logging, QA/QC/data analysis. Is a one-man job or is it individual work? So yeah, are you part of a team or is that just, are you one woman with lots of hats that does the whole lot?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest. I am part of a team. So the core logging department at the moment, I think we're sitting at about 22 or 24 people. It is kind of hard to keep track in our department because we supply a lot of engineers for offshore working. So although there's over 20 of us, there's only usually maximum 8 to 10 of us in the office at any one time because everybody else is at sea. But aside from working in team, everybody within our team is trained up to do all aspects of the job. So if you join core logging, you would be soil logging, you would be rock logging, you would be performing some testing, and you would be QA/QCing data as well. We make sure everybody has a go at everything and is fully trained to do everything, and then has a go and sees what they like best. And we can usually tailor the majority of your work to the side that you prefer the most. So we do have people within our department who have specialised more in rock logging or soil logging, and some people who are very much into their data analysis, so spend more of their time doing that than anything else. So kind of a bit of both. Big team, but individual responsibilities as well.
Definitely. And I think because we're so big as well, and we'll have that many different types of projects, it does allow you to move around. I've seen it in so many different departments. I think a lot of people like to try, and correct me if I'm wrong, like to try little bits and pieces, and then after a year or so, you tend to form a bit of a specialism in what you enjoy, I suppose. So
yeah, so something we do, and something that people from our department enjoy doing very much so, is we have little placement schemes within the company. So once you've established within your own department, you can do 2 weeks with another department to see how they work, which gives you the opportunity to see where you sit within the whole company a little bit better, but also gives you an opportunity to see what other people do, in case you should in the future like to move around within the company. And something that I thought was really cool, that I'm just going to keep talking about anyway, was I have never met Octavian on site because he is near shore and I work in a full marine environment. However, his projects he was talking about, all of them except for the one that was in the middle of the Thames, I have worked on the marine side of it as well. And I have been on vessels looking at his jack-up rigs from 500 meters away. So although we work in technically completely different departments, we've worked on the same massive scale projects, and it is really cool to see it from other people's points of view. And we do a lot of talks and conversations and presentations within the company as well to show how what I've done has been taken by Anthony's team and then move forwards to like fully showing what the asset looks like once it's in the sea, which is really nice to see where you sit and how your work's progressed over the years that you've been here.
definitely. Yeah, it's one of those things that's really hard to explain. It's the life cycle of a project at Fugro, because from the minute we get the tender up until the decommissioning, it touches so many different departments that you're working with people constantly that you've never met. Yeah, it's really cool. Andrews, I'll just go to your question in 2 seconds, but I just wanted to ask, and this is my personal question, and I'm sure the students will find it interesting. When you've done things like soil logging and all these sorts of stuff, and this might be me being a little bit naive, is there anything that stood out that you found that you haven't expected when you've been looking at rocks and soil and these sorts of stuff? When you've been analysing the data, is there anything that you've thought, that's a bit weird, or it's cool, or something that you've just not expected at all whatsoever?
I can add something.
Nice.
With my less, maybe it's a bit of more of a harrowing experience, but the amount of plastic that you find in seafloor sand is pretty scary. It's not really like a technical thing, but that's something that I've come across before, like little microscopic bits of plastic, which is nice to see. But then on that side of things, you can see like shells, fossils, bits of fish bone, bits of peat, bits of coal, bits of trees. So those are like more accessory things, but the thing that I was unexpected when I came to this job was the amount of plastic that's in there on the seafloor. So something shines a light on the problem, I guess.
Definitely.
Anthony,
Definitely.
I feel I should have answered the question first, because there's no way I could top your one with what I'm going to say.
Go on, anyway.
But the project we had in Dunkirk, water depth was around 20 meters. And the second run we do, or there or thereabouts, so about 3 meters underneath, well, 20, like about 23 meters underneath sea level, 3 meters underneath, like the seabed. I open up this, like I split open the sand, and I see a worm moving, and I freaked out because I thought there's no way there could be anything alive in this sediment, and there it was, a worm, like a regular worm. This is not okay. This just freaked me out so much. You just never expect something to be alive in the thing you're going to be logging. So
I've had a very similar experience offshore. We brought a sample up, and there was a starfish in it, and he crawled out at the end of the tube and set off across the lab floor. So we very carefully scooped him up and put him back in the sea. But I was not expecting that to just appear. So that was pretty surprising for me.
Another story I
just
was
get into the
some seals or floating around in the moon pool of a vessel, and the vessels just had to wait until the seals decided to swim away because they can't do anything until they've gone. So yeah, you see lots of nice things. I think you even had a dolphin in one of your pictures, didn't you, Jemima?
Yeah. Cool. Sounds good. Andrew's just seen there that you asked how long it takes for feedback after an interview. So usually it should be within 1 to 2 weeks. Being quite a large matrix organisation, approvals to get offers out and that sort of stuff, if you were to be offered, can take a little bit of time, but it's usually within a week to 2 weeks, roughly. If you've already applied for one of our roles, that's what it sounds like. Just drop myself or one of the recruiters that you've been speaking to a message, and we could get that sorted for you. We've seen one there from Michael that says, do you consider applications for graduate roles from international students on a graduate visa? There's no hard stop yes or no here. It really depends on the role itself and the salary banding for the positions. So for this sort of thing, we're governed by the Home Office, basically. They set minimum salary bandings for what they would accept for someone to be sponsored afterwards, and we've basically got to make sure that we can hit that. But of course, our salaries are different per role, so it really depends on the role that you're applying to. So yeah, hope that helps. Got another one there that says, like Jemima and Anthony, I'll just quickly summarise this one. Basically, how is the Earth data collected? Do you have a specific domain or some other?
I think I think in general the data is collected in quite discrete domains. So the geotechnical vessels, if this is answering your question, feel free to jump in the chat box if I'm not. But I think the geotechnical vessels are sort of a discrete portal for acquiring geotechnical data, whether it's physically drilling or acquiring physical samples or doing cone penetration tests. Similarly with the jackup rigs, whereas the geophysics vessels, they're a just different tool for a different job that's processed in a completely different data stream almost. And this kind of relates to Hamid's question at the beginning of the Q&A. So, for example, geophysics and geotech, the data is processed by different teams. And hence why in my role, or as part of it, is integrating the two together, because they could be sort of speaking different messages. But on the geophysics note, in Aberdeen, there's a huge team that do a lot of, and Portchester, they do a lot of the geophysics processing. So initially when it comes back in from offshore, processing the data and doing the migrations, etc. I'm not a geophysicist, so I'm not especially specialised in that area, but I know in the Wallingford office within consultancy, we then have the interpretation geophysics team. So that's less on the processing side and more actually like delineating those horizons and picking out those acoustic signatures. So that's like a later stage interpretation, but they're all collected in different channels. And then we have our satellite positioning data. And one thing we haven't even touched on is the Met Ocean buoys, which help understand what the sort of return from a offshore wind farm might be. So lots of different avenues of data collection and processing that can or cannot be merged at different points. So I guess the answer is lots of different ways of collecting data.
Brilliant.
Unless anyone else has anything to add.
No? All good. There's no more questions in the chat, so I've just got a couple that I get asked quite often, or I see people get asked often at careers fairs. Have you got any advice for someone that hasn't been offshore or hasn't considered it, but wants to work in this field, so may have to consider it in the future if applying?
I think unless anyone else has anything, I think one of the great things about working offshore is Fugro sponsors you to do something called the BOSIA, which is, I believe, for the UK like a standard. In fact, international is a standard oil and gas or offshore safety qualification, and the cost of that is very high, and it's a couple of days training course, and it's valid for 3 years. So once you've got that on your CV, that gives you've got that as an individual, even if you were to move on, which hopefully you'd stay. But the fact that they're willing to invest that much money in you shows that they want to retain you, but also that's a great opportunity to learn. And going offshore it's a very unique environment, as Jemima said. You're working 12 hours a day, and you can't really compare that to anything. And site work as well on land is probably in a similar vein. You're working with people all the time. You're living with them offshore or on jackups, and it's a very unique way of getting to know people and testing yourself in a way that you wouldn't really be able to do onshore. And if you then decide to change course and say you decide to go into different brands of science research onshore, you will always have that experience, and no one else, very few people will have that to compete against you. So it does set you apart for lots of different reasons. Yeah.
I would jump in.
One thing I would say with
sorry, Octavian.
No,
I was just saying.
I don't have headphones, so it's difficult to hear. Please.
Perfect. I would just say, slightly moving sideways, but on the same vein as Anthony, Fugro very much does want to invest in its staff and get the best for you and the best opportunities for you. So we actively encourage and help our employees to pursue things such as chartership, which the offshore work and getting loads of hands-on technical experience is really, really good for. And then obviously once you have that, once you're chartered for life, whether that is with the Geological Society or more engineering or even geography society, like branch of professional accreditation, you have that for life, whether you are with Fugro or beyond. And that sort of extra qualification beyond having your degree really sets you apart as an expert in your field. And I think that's something that's really cool that Fugro, again, are prepared to put in that time, money and effort to help you pursue that in terms of training, getting experience with other departments within your own department, as well as all the hands-on work that we do, which is, for me, looking at getting geology accreditation is really, really important for what I want to pursue within my career. So not to sound really cliched, but it's nice to work for a company that actually does kind of care about you.
Definitely. Yeah, I think I've shown in, we've got our what's called a Fugro Academy. That's lots of online based learning, that a lot of it is accredited and that sort of stuff as well. But for some of our disciplines, we've also got our Fugro Training Centre down in Plymouth, which is essentially an old marine base that we've purchased, and we run a huge amount of courses out of there that members of the public that aren't a Fugro employee would pay for. We're also a little bit cheeky and ask our clients to spend some money on getting their people through the training courses as well. And for us to have a dedicated training centre, it's something that I've never seen in my career, to have a full building / team and department focused on learning globally for a number of different disciplines that are technical. So I totally echo that as well. Just see a question there saying, my MSc course is ending in September 2025. Am I eligible to apply for a role at Fugro, which shows a starting date of the 28th of April 2025? Difficult one. It really depends on how much of your course you've got left to do. So we do have some people that are maybe going through dissertations, etc. just now, and just have to submit them, and they're usually all right to start sort of April, May time, but it would really depend on if you've still got modules and studies and exams and that sort of stuff between the 28th of April and September 2025. If you do, it's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. We take on, or the plan is actually from now to take on 2 cohorts per year, one in September and then one in April each year. So it's not as if you've missed the boat at all. You could always just apply around about September time to start the following April. Cool. Okay, bang on 3 o'clock, and that's all the questions answered, I believe. So I'll just, there's one more that's came through that's pretty lengthy. What I'll do is, because it seems like quite a complicated and complex one, I will, if you want to reach out to me, I'll be following up with an email through GTI in the future in the next few days or so, and you could reach out directly to me and we could discuss that. Thank you everybody for joining here, and especially to our panellists. I couldn't have done it without you at all whatsoever. It's been super insightful. You've really gave me, and as well the students, a really good insight into the industry that we work in, and then also Fugro as an organisation. As I said previously, if you want to hear about further roles, you can scan the QR code and you'll be the first one to hear about them, as well as receiving the value add content that I mentioned previously as well. I'll follow up by email to everybody who's attended today with some next steps if you're interested in our vacancies as well. And I'll close it off there. Thanks very much, everyone,
Corey,
and I'll speak to you soon. Yep.
I think Andrew's just asked for an email or contact. Will your email be able to reply? Will it be a no reply email?
Good shout. Yeah, it'll be in the email that I sent out to you. I'll include all my contact details and stuff in there as well, so you'll have access to it.
Sorry for interrupting.
That's all right.
Thank you so much, team at Fugro. Just want to say thank you again also from Target Jobs. We hope that you've all had a really insightful time listening to everyone at the webinar. So thank you all so much and have a lovely day. We're going to end the event there. And yeah, as he said, if you have any questions, please email them through. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.